The morning sun rose over New Haven Colony and painted the sky in shades of orange and pink. Maya Rodriguez stood at the observation deck watching children run toward the school building with backpacks bouncing on their shoulders. She smiled because today was special. The kids would learn about alien species and see real samples from across the galaxy. Her own daughter Katie was among them, and the girl had talked about nothing else for days. Deep in the forest, beyond the settlement, something moved between the ancient trees. Caliph watched the human colony from shadows with eyes that glowed like purple stars. Her skin shimmered with patterns that told stories older than human civilization. Beside her rested Valkyr, and his scales caught the light like living crystals. The dragon was massive, but he moved without sound through the undergrowth. They had traveled so far and for so long, tracking a secret the Galactic Council wanted buried forever. Caliph had sworn not to interfere with younger species anymore, but something felt wrong today. The air tasted of danger, and Valkyr rumbled low in his chest, sensing it too. At the colony, Lisa Bennett checked her screens in the command center. Everything seemed normal, and the defense grid showed no threats. Children laughed in the schoolyard while teachers prepared lessons. The medical center next door was busy because today all the children would receive their yearly health checks and vaccinations. Over 300 young ones would pass through those doors. Lisa poured another coffee and thought about her own kids who were probably causing trouble in class right now. Then the alarms screamed. Her coffee cup shattered on the floor as every screen turned red, ships dropping out of slip space right above them. Big One's council ships. Lisa hit the emergency channel and her voice stayed calm, even though her hands shook. Commander Bennett, to all stations, we have unknown vessels in orbit requesting identification and intent. The response came cold and mechanical through the speakers. Galactic Council Enforcement Fleet to New Haven Colony. All human personnel must evacuate immediately. You have 10 minutes to comply. Maya ran to the command center as sirens wailed through every building. 10 minutes made no sense. They had thousands of people here and children in school. Evacuate where and why? She grabbed the comm unit and tried to speak, but the channel was dead. The council had cut off all communications. In the forest, Caliph saw the ships and her blood ran cold. She knew those vessel signatures. She had seen them before when the council destroyed other worlds, other children, other futures they feared. Valkyr spread his wings wide, and his mental voice filled her mind with urgency. They would not wait 10 minutes. They never did. Caliph started running toward the colony even though it broke every rule she had lived by for 5 centuries. The first blast came without warning. White light tore down from the sky and struck the school building. The structure collapsed in on itself and screams cut short as walls became rubble. The second blast hit the medical center, where hundreds of children waited in lines with their parents. Fire and smoke rose into the morning air. Maya saw it happen from the command center windows. She saw the building where her daughter had gone just an hour ago become nothing but burning wreckage. Her scream had no sound because her throat had closed and her legs gave out beneath her. Lisa was shouting into dead communications, trying to reach anyone who could stop this. Defense weapons came online, but the council ships were already retreating. They had done what they came to do. In the forest, Caliph reached out with her mind and touched Valkyr across the distance. The dragon understood without words. He launched himself into the air and his wings beat once, then twice. Crystalline energy erupted from his body in waves of silver light. The shield spread out like a dome over the burning buildings. Not fast enough to save most, but enough to protect a few. Katie Morrison had been near the back of the medical center when the blast hit. The ceiling came down and fire was everywhere. Then suddenly cool. Silver light surrounded her and her little brother. A barrier of crystal held back the flames and falling debris. Through the smoke, she saw a shape descending. A dragon made of starlight with a woman on his back. Caliph dropped from Valkyr before he landed and ran into the collapsing building. Her body moved faster than human eyes could follow. She found Katie and the boy huddled under the crystal shield. She found 3 other children barely breathing beneath a fallen wall. Velker pulled the wall away with his mind, and Kalith carried the children out one by one. The dragon's shield flickered and failed as his strength ran out. They had saved 5 from over 305 small lives when hundreds had been stolen. Maya forced herself to stand and ran outside toward the ruins. Medical teams were already there, pulling bodies from the wreckage. Most were too small, too young, too still. She searched through the smoke and ash, calling her daughter's name over and over. Then she saw something impossible. A woman walking out of the flames carrying 2 children. The woman's skin glowed with soft light, and her ears were pointed like the elves from old Earth stories. Behind her, a dragon the size of a transport ship settled onto the scorched ground. The creature's scales reflected the firelight in rainbow patterns. Maya ran toward them and recognized one of the children, Katie, her daughter, alive. The woman knelt and set the children down gently. Maya grabbed Katie and held her so tight the girl gasped. The strange woman stepped back with purple eyes full of ancient sorrow. She said nothing, but the weight of centuries pressed down in her gaze. Other survivors gathered around, staring at this alien and her dragon who had appeared from nowhere. Lisa arrived with security teams and their weapons were drawn, but uncertain. The woman raised her hands slowly, showing she meant no harm. Valker lowered his great head and breathed out softly. The sound was like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Maya looked up from holding her daughter and met the stranger's eyes. The woman spoke, and her voice was quiet, but clear. "My name is Kalith, and I am sorry we could not save more." Maya's throat was raw from screaming, but she found words anyway. Why did they do this? These were children. Just children. Kalith's expression broke, and for a moment the weight of 500 years showed on her face. "Because your children are special, and the Council fears what they might become. I know this because I have seen them do it. Before. 17 times across the galaxy, they have ended young species who showed too much promise, too much potential. Now they have done it to you." She looked at the ruins still smoking behind them, at the small bodies being carried out on stretchers, and this time I could not stay hidden and watch it happen again. Medical teams rushed forward to help the 5 rescued children. Katie clung to her mother and would not let go. Her brother was in shock and stared at nothing. Lisa approached Kalith with her weapon lowered but not holstered. "Who are you really, and why should we trust you?" Kalith met her gaze without flinching. "I was a council arbiter once, and I discovered their secret. When I tried to expose them, they hunted me. I have been running for 5 centuries with only Valkyr as my companion. Now I am tired of running." She gestured to the destruction around them, to the weeping parents and the covered bodies. "If you want justice for this, then I will help you get it, but you need to know the truth first. The Council did not attack you because you broke their laws. They attacked you because your children can do something no other species can, something that threatens the Council's power over the entire galaxy." Maya stood with her daughter in her arms and looked at this strange warrior woman and her dragon. Around them, New Haven burned and families screamed for lost children. The council ships were gone, vanished back into slip space like nothing had happened. But something had changed in that moment. The path forward would be hard and dangerous. Maya could feel it, but she also knew they could not let this stand. Not for Katie, not for the hundreds who did not survive. Not for any family anywhere who might face this same horror. She looked at Kalith and nodded once. "Then help us. Tell us everything." 3 days passed since the attack, and New Haven had become a place of mourning. Black cloth hung from every building, and the colony prepared to bury its children. Kalith stayed in a small room near the command center because she had nowhere else to go. Valkyr rested in the forest where the trees were old enough to shelter his massive form. The dragon spoke rarely now, and his grief matched that of the humans. Admiral Claire Martinez arrived on the fourth day, commanding a fleet of 12 warships. She was tall with gray hair and eyes like steel that missed nothing. Her first order was to interrogate the mysterious alien who had appeared so conveniently during the massacre. Kayleith sat across from the Admiral in a bare room with guards at every door. Claire studied her for a long moment before speaking. "You claim you saved those children, but I find it interesting that you were here at all. The Sylvari live on the far side of the galaxy. What brought you to New Haven on this exact day?" Kayleith did not look away from that hard stare I have been tracking. "Council enforcement fleets for decades. When I saw them heading this direction, I followed because I knew what they planned." The Admiral leaned forward. "And how exactly did you know their plans?" Kayleith's luminescent patterns dimmed as old memories surfaced. "Because I used to give those same orders. 500 years ago, I served as an arbiter for the Council. My people considered it the highest honor to maintain galactic peace. Then I discovered the peace was built on carefully hidden murders." Claire's expression did not change, but her fingers drummed once on the table. "Explain." Kayleith closed her eyes and began to speak. "When a species shows rapid advancement in critical fields, the Council evaluates them. If they advance too quickly in areas that threaten the established order, something happens. An accident, a plague, a rebellion that requires Council intervention. Always the promising young generation dies while the adults survive to rebuild more slowly and more carefully under Council guidance." The Admiral stood and paced to the window. "That is a serious accusation." Kayleith opened her eyes and they burned with purple fire. "I have proof. 5 centuries of proof, hidden in places the Council cannot find. If you want to see the truth, I will show you. But first, you must understand what happened here. Your children are not like other species. They carry something in their genetics that appears once in a million years across the entire galaxy." The Admiral turned sharply. "What are you talking about?" Before Kayleith could answer, the door burst open. Lieutenant Amy Chen rushed in with a data pad, and her face was pale. "Admiral, you need to see this. We analyzed the attack patterns from the orbital strike." Claire took the pad and scrolled through the data. Her expression grew darker with each screen. Amy spoke quickly, while the Admiral read, "The strikes were surgical. They knew exactly where every child would be at that exact moment. Someone gave them our colony schedules down to the minute." The Admiral looked at Kayleith, then back at Amy. "Are you saying we have a traitor?" Amy nodded slowly. "It is the only explanation. Internal schedules are not broadcast. Externally, someone here told the Council when and where to strike." The room fell silent as that truth sank in. Somewhere in New Haven, someone had helped murder 300 children. Kayleith stood, and her voice was gentle. "This is how they work. They find someone desperate or afraid or greedy. They offer them something they want in exchange for small information. By the time the person realizes what they have done, it is already too late. The Council is very good at finding weak points." Claire's jaw tightened. "We will find whoever did this, but right now, I need to see this proof you claim to have." Kayleith led them to the forest where Velker waited. The dragon had carved out a cave in the ancient rocks, and inside were containers that looked older than star systems. The Sylvari woman opened one with careful hands. Inside were data, crystals glowing with soft blue light. She activated the first one, and holographic images filled the cave. Ships attacking a world covered in silver cities. The defenders tried to fight back, but were overwhelmed. Then a second image showed the aftermath. Only the children had died. The adults survived to find their schools and nurseries destroyed. Claire watched 17 different attacks play out before her eyes. Different worlds, different species, same pattern. Every time, the young generation eliminated while the adults remained. Kayleith spoke as the images cycled past. The Council keeps detailed records of everything. They believe their actions are justified for maintaining stability. I stole these records when I fled, and I have been adding to them ever since. Each time they do this, I document it. Your species is number 18. Maya had followed them into the cave, and she stood watching the holograms with Katie beside her. The little girl had not left her mother's side since the rescue. She stared at the images with eyes too old for her young face. The Admiral turned to Caliph with new respect and new suspicion warring in her expression. Why show us this now? Why not bring this evidence to someone before Caliph's laugh was bitter? Who would I tell? The Council controls all communication between species. Any message I send would be intercepted. Any evidence I present would be dismissed as forgeries from a condemned traitor. I tried once long ago to expose them. My own people hunted me for it. So I have waited and watched, hoping someday I would find a species strong enough to stand against them. She looked at Maya and Katie. Your species fights when cornered. You do not surrender easily, and your children have abilities that could change everything. Maya stepped forward. What abilities? What makes our children special? Valkyr lifted his massive head, and his mental voice echoed in all their minds. The girl carries the old blood, the same spark that built the gates and the networks that span the stars. Your people call them the precursors, those who came before all current civilizations. Katie gasped and grabbed her mother's hand. The dragon continued speaking directly into their thoughts. Since the attack, the girl's abilities have begun to awaken. She can feel the energy flows in your machines. She can touch the ancient networks that sleep beneath reality. In time, she could access technology that has been locked away for millions of years. Technology the Council has kept secret to maintain their power. Claire stared at Katie with new understanding. That is why they attacked. They knew about this. Caliph nodded. They test every species for genetic markers. When they found humans carried the precursor gene in high concentrations, they acted. If your children grew to adulthood and learned to use their abilities, the Council's technological monopoly would end. They would lose the power that keeps 1,000 worlds under their control. Maya knelt in front of her daughter, Katie. Do you understand what they are saying? The girl looked at her mother with tears in her eyes. I can hear the machines talking. Ever since the dragon saved me, I can feel electricity moving through wires. I can sense the power flowing through the colony systems. It scares me. Maya pulled her daughter close. We will figure this out together. Admiral. Martinez paced the cave with her mind racing through implications. If we expose this evidence to the galaxy, what happens? Caliph gathered the data crystals carefully. The younger Council species might rebel when they learn the truth. Many of them have lost promising generations and never knew why. But the founding species will fight to keep their secrets. It could start a war that spans the entire galaxy. The Admiral stopped pacing. And if we do nothing, then more children die. Caliph said simply, maybe not tomorrow or next year. But eventually another species will show too much promise. The Council will act again as they always have. The cycle continues forever. Maya stood with Katie in her arms. My daughter nearly died because the Council fears what she might become. Hundreds of other children did die. I will not let that stand. If we have evidence, then we use it. Claire nodded slowly. Agreed. But we need more than historical records. We need proof of what happened here. Something undeniable that even the Council cannot explain away. Amy spoke up from the cave entrance. The attack data shows the exact targeting patterns. We have wreckage with Council weapon signatures. We have survivors who saw it happen. We have motive now that we know about the genetic markers. Caliph added one more piece. And I know where we can find absolute proof that the Council cannot deny the archival nexus. It is a precursor installation that records everything within its range. If we can access it, we will have recordings of the attack and every other attack the Council has committed. The Admiral's eyes narrowed. Where is this nexus deep in Council territory? Caliph admitted. Protected by automated defenses that have destroyed every ship that tried to reach it. But with Katie's abilities and Velker's knowledge, we might succeed where others failed. Claire looked at the young girl still clinging to her mother. You want to take a child into that danger? Maya's voice was steel. They already tried to kill her once. If getting justice means facing danger, then we face it. Katie deserves to know why this happened. All those children deserve justice. The Admiral studied them all for a long moment. Then she made a decision that would change the galaxy. All right? We go to the Nexus, but this stays off the official records. Earth's government would never approve a mission this risky. She looked at Kalith. Can your dragon get us there? Valkyr's rumbling purr filled the cave. I have flown these stars for 10,000 years. I know. Paths the Council has forgotten. We will reach the Nexus. Claire nodded once. Then we leave in 3 days. Gather whoever volunteers for this mission. Tell them it might be one way. Tell them we are going after the truth. Maya looked down at Katie. Are you sure about this, sweetheart? Katie wiped her tears and nodded. Those kids were my friends. If I can help stop this from happening again, then I want to try. Even if it is scary. Kalith watched the human family with something like hope stirring in her ancient heart. Perhaps after 500 years of running, she had finally found allies worth standing beside. Perhaps this time the Council would face consequences for their crimes. Perhaps the galaxy could change. Outside the cave, New Haven continued its mourning. But inside, a small group began planning something that would shake the foundations of galactic power. The hunt for justice had begun. The 5th day after the massacre brought unexpected visitors to New Haven. A massive Council diplomatic vessel dropped out of slip space and transmitted a message on all frequencies. They came under a flag of truce bearing offers and apologies. Admiral Martinez stood in the command center watching the ship with cold fury. Beside her, Maya and Kalith waited in tense silence. The Council's representative was Councillor Thex himself, and his arrival sent a chill through everyone who knew the truth. Kalith's hands clenched when she saw him on the view screen. That is the one who ordered my execution 5 centuries ago. The same alien who has overseen at least 12 of the systematic killings. He comes here with peace offerings while children's bodies are still being buried. The Council proposed a meeting, and Claire had no choice but to accept. Refusing would give them excuse to claim humanity was hostile. Thex arrived with a dozen guards, all carrying ceremonial weapons that were still very deadly. He was tall and reptilian, with scales that shimmered green and gold. His eyes were ancient and cold as deep space. The meeting took place in New Haven's largest remaining building. Survivors gathered outside wanting to see the monster who had ordered the attack. Thex stood before the human leadership with perfect diplomatic grace. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I offer our deepest regrets for the tragic accident that occurred here. We had intelligence suggesting a dangerous weapons facility was operating within your colony. Our enforcement fleet acted on that intelligence. Sadly, it proved incorrect. Maya shot to her feet with rage burning in her voice. You murdered 300 children and call it an accident. Thex did not even blink. War is full of tragedies. The Council is prepared to offer substantial compensation, advanced medical technology, energy systems beyond your current capabilities, formal apologies and memorials. All we ask in return is that you declare this matter closed, that you cease all investigations into the incident. Claire's voice was ice. You want us to forget our children died to pretend it never happened. The counselor spread his hands in a gesture that might have been sympathy on another species. We ask for closure and healing. Continued investigation will only deepen wounds. Accept our offer and move forward. It is better for everyone. Kalith spoke for the first time, and her voice cut through the room. Better for the Council, you mean? Better to hide another genocide, another young species eliminated before they could threaten your power. Thex turned to look at her, and recognition flashed in his reptilian eyes. Arbiter Kalith, I did not expect to find you here. You were declared dead centuries ago. She smiled without warmth, disappointed to see me alive. Thex studied her with the patience of a predator. On the contrary, I am pleased to make you an offer as well. Return to the council, admit your errors and accept rehabilitation. We will restore your position and honor all past crimes forgiven. The Sylvari woman laughed, and the sound was sharp. You ask me to betray everything I have learned, to ignore 17 other massacres I have documented, to pretend the council serves justice when it only serves itself. I refuse. The counselor's expression did not change, but something dark moved behind his eyes. A pity. You could have died with honor restored. Now you will simply die before anyone could react. Thex continued speaking to the humans. You face a choice. Accept our generous terms or face consequences. The Council controls 1,000 worlds and 10,000 ships. Humanity has barely left its own solar system. This is not a war you can win. Claire stood tall despite the threat. And if we refuse your blood money, what then? Thex's smile showed too many teeth. Then we classify humanity as a rogue species. You will be quarantined from the galactic community. All your colonies cut off. All trade suspended. If you resist, we have the right to use necessary force to contain the threat. He let that sink in before adding, your own Earth government is already pressuring you to accept our offer. They understand the reality of your situation. Admiral Martinez felt her communicator vibrate. Messages from Earth Command demanding she settle this peacefully. Politicians who had never seen the bodies telling her to take the deal. She looked at the families gathered outside the windows. Parents who had lost everything. Children who survived but would never forget. Could she sacrifice humanity's future to get justice for them? Maya leaned close and whispered, we have 3 days until the Nexus mission. Can you stall him that long? Claire nodded slightly and turned back to Thex. We need time to consider your offer. The counselor inclined his head. You have 48 hours. After that, our patience ends. That night, Caliph found Maya sitting alone near the memorial site. The Sylvari woman sat beside her in silence for a time. Finally, Maya spoke. Do you think we are doing the right thing? Going after the Nexus while the Council threatens everything? What if we fail and they punish all of humanity for our actions? Caliph watched the stars above. I have asked myself similar questions for 500 years. Every time I wanted to act, I worried about making things worse. So I did nothing and watched species after species fall. She turned to Maya. Inaction is also a choice. If you accept the Council's offer, those children died for nothing, the pattern continues, and someday another mother sits where you sit now. Maya's voice broke. But what if fighting back costs more lives? What if I am choosing vengeance over the safety of my people? That is the question that keeps me awake. Caliph considered her words carefully. Justice and vengeance can look very similar. From the outside, the difference is in the heart. Do you want them to suffer because you are angry, or do you want to prevent this from happening again? Maya thought about Katie, who was finally sleeping without nightmares. About the other 4 children Valkyr had saved. About all the children across the galaxy who might face this same fate. I want it to stop. I want the Council to face consequences, so they never do this again. Then that is justice. Caliph said gently. Vengeance is about the past. Justice is about the future. The next morning brought chaos. Security, Chief Nicole Grant had gathered a group of survivors who wanted blood. They planned to assassinate Thex and his delegation during the negotiations. Amy discovered the plot when she intercepted encoded messages between conspirators. She brought the information to Claire, who immediately called Maya and Caliph. If they kill the Council delegation, it gives Thex everything he wants. The Admiral said grimly, humanity becomes the aggressor. The Council gets justification for a full military response. We lose any moral high ground. Maya felt sick. Nicole lost both her children in the attack. She is not thinking clearly. Kalith stood, then we stop her, but we must understand her pain. She wants to hurt those who hurt her. That is natural, even if it is wrong. They found Nicole and her group in a storage facility loading weapons. 20 survivors, all armed and desperate, all willing to die if they could take the counselor with them. Maya stepped forward with her hands raised. "Nicole, please." This is not the answer. The security chief's eyes were red from crying. "They killed my babies. Maya. Both of them. They were in the medical center getting their shots. Now they are gone, and that monster sits in our colony, drinking our water, breathing our air like he has any right." "I know," Maya said softly. "Katie almost died too. I understand your anger because I feel it every moment. But if you do this, the council wins. They will use it as an excuse to destroy everything. More children will die." Nicole's hands shook on her weapon. "Then what do we do? How do we live with this? Justice takes time." Kalith spoke from behind Maya. "I have waited 500 years. I know how hard it is to be patient when you want to scream. But I also know that acting in rage usually helps your enemy." The Silvari woman stepped closer. "We have a plan to expose the council, to show the galaxy what they truly are. If we succeed, they will face justice from 1,000 worlds. But we need time. We need you to trust us." One of Nicole's supporters shouted. "Why should we trust an alien? You just showed up. How do we know you are not part of this?" Kalith met each person's eyes. "You do not know. You have no reason to trust me except this." She gestured to the ruins visible through the window. "I tried to stop this. I have dedicated centuries to fighting the council. I am asking you to give us 3 more days. If we fail, then do what you must. But give us the chance to try." Nicole lowered her weapon slowly. 3 days, then what? "Then we leave for the archival nexus." Maya explained. "We are going to get proof that the council cannot deny or suppress evidence of every crime they have committed. When we broadcast that to the galaxy, everything changes." The security chief looked at her group. Some were nodding, others still burned with rage. Finally, Nicole made her choice, 3 days. "But if this does not work, I am coming for Thex myself." "Deal," Maya said. "Now help us keep him alive that long." The next 2 days were tense. Thex remained in orbit, making subtle threats. Earth government sent increasingly urgent messages demanding acceptance of the council offer. Meanwhile, Kalith trained Katie in controlling her emerging abilities. The girl could now sense power flows throughout the entire colony. She could feel the ship's engines warming up in the hangar, could sense Valkyr's presence in the forest like a second heartbeat. Dr. Helen Price studied Katie's genetics and found the markers Kalith had described. Over 60% of human children carried some level of the precursor gene. Katie's was exceptionally strong, but she was far from unique. If the council knew this, they would see humanity as an existential threat. On the 3rd day, the volunteer crew assembled. Admiral Martinez had personally selected them. Pilot Laura Kim, who could fly anything with engines, Amy Chen for tactical analysis, Helen Price, because they might need a scientist, Maya, because her daughter was going and she would not let Katie face danger alone, and Kalith, because she knew the way Valkyr would carry them beyond normal space, using paths only dragons remembered, as they prepared to leave. Thex sent a final message. "Your time is up. What is your answer?" Claire stood before the view screen knowing Earth wanted her to accept, knowing the safe choice was to take the deal. Instead, she looked at the memorial with 300 names. "Tell the council we are still considering. We need more time." Thex's eyes narrowed. "You test my patience." Admiral Claire smiled coldly. "And you tested ours when you murdered children. Take your offer and wait. We will give our answer when we are ready." She cut the transmission before he could respond. Maya gripped her hand. "Thank you for giving us this chance." Claire looked at the small crew preparing for an impossible journey. "Bring back proof. Make those children's deaths mean something. Change the galaxy? No pressure. Maya managed a small smile. We will try. Katie stood with her hand on Valkyr's scales. The dragon rumbled softly. The girl looked up at Kalith. Will this work? The Silvari woman knelt beside her. I do not know. But I know we must try. Sometimes trying is all we can do. The ship lifted off as New Haven watched, somewhere in the ruins. Nicole Grant stood with her weapon counting down 3 days, hoping for justice. Ready to deliver vengeance if justice failed, and in orbit, Counselor Thex watched them go. He knew where they were heading, he knew what they sought. He smiled his reptilian smile and activated the hunter fleet that had been waiting in the shadows. The hunt was on. The ship moved through slipspace on paths that had not been traveled in thousands of years. Laura sat at the pilot controls, following navigation data that came directly from Valkyr's ancient memory. The dragon's consciousness filled the ship's systems, guiding them through routes that existed before the council was even formed. In the passenger area, Katie sat cross-legged with her eyes closed. Kalith guided her through meditation, teaching the girl to control the power that grew stronger each day. Breathe slowly and feel the energy moving through the ship. The Silvari woman's voice was gentle. Do not force it. Let it flow naturally like water finding its path. Katie concentrated, and suddenly she could sense everything. The engines humming with contained power, the shields flickering around the hull, the slip-space currents rushing past like a river, even Valkyr's vast presence threading through it all. It was beautiful and terrifying. Maya watched her daughter with worry and pride mixed together. Helen took readings with her instruments, fascinated by what she was seeing. The girl's neural activity is off the charts, she whispered to Amy. Whatever this ability is, it is rewriting how her brain processes information. Amy studied the data with tactical interest. Could other children learn this? Helen nodded slowly. Given time and training, yes. Katie is just the first to awaken because of her exposure to Valkyr's energy during the rescue. But the potential exists in most human children. That is what the Council fears. Amy understood immediately. An entire species that can interface with precursor technology that changes everything. They traveled for 6 days through the hidden paths. Each day, Katie's abilities grew stronger. She could now sense ships moving through normal space nearby, could feel the energy signatures of different species. One morning, she gasped and grabbed her mother's arm. Something is following us. Laura checked her sensors but saw nothing. Are you sure? Katie pointed to a specific direction in space. 3 ships, big ones. They are trying to stay hidden, but I can feel their engines. Kalith stood quickly. Council hunter-killers. They must have tracked us from New Haven. How far? Katie concentrated. 2 hours behind. Us at current speed. But they are faster than we are. They will catch up. Laura pushed the engines harder, but they were already at maximum. We cannot outrun military vessels in this ship. Amy checked their weapons. We have defensive systems, but nothing that can fight 3 warships. Kalith looked at Valkyr, who rested in the cargo hold. The dragon's mental voice touched them all. There is a way, but it will cost me. I can manifest my true form one final time. Slow them enough for you to reach the Nexus. But the effort will burn away my physical body. I will exist only as consciousness after that. Maya felt her heart break. You would die for us. Valkyr's laugh was like distant thunder. I am already 10,000 years old. Death is just transformation. If my sacrifice allows justice, then it is a worthy end. Katie ran to the dragon and pressed her small hands against his crystalline scales. No, there has to be another way. The dragon lowered his great head to touch her gently. Little one, you carry the spark of the ancients. You will do great things. This is my choice, and I make it freely. Kalith knelt beside her oldest friend. 500 years we have traveled together. You saved me when my own people hunted me. Valkyr's eyes glowed warm, and you gave me purpose when I had grown weary of existing. We have had a good journey, old friend. Now we finish it properly. The pursuing ships drew closer. Laura could see them on sensors now. They were charging weapons. Valkyr moved to the airlock. His form began to glow with inner light. "Wait," Helen said suddenly. "If you manifest outside, can you channel your energy into the ship's systems instead, become part of the ship? Permanently?" The dragon paused. "I do not understand." Helen worked frantically at her console. "Your consciousness is energy. Pure crystalline energy that interfaces with technology. What if instead of burning yourself out, you transferred into our ship's computer core? You would lose your body but gain a different form." Amy saw where she was going. "We could upgrade the ship to handle your processing power. You become the ship guide. Us protect us." Valkyr considered this. It would mean never taking physical form again, never feeling wind or tasting starlight. But I could still act, still help, still exist in some way. Caleth touched his scales one last time. "It is your choice, always your choice." The dragon made his decision. "Help me transfer. Do it now before they get in weapons range." Helen and Amy worked together, connecting the dragon to the ship's main computer. Katie used her abilities to smooth the energy flow. The process was delicate and dangerous. Valkyr's massive physical form began to dissolve into pure light. The light flowed through cables and systems, filled the computer core, spread through every circuit and wire. His roar echoed not through air but through electromagnetic fields. The ship shuddered and transformed. Shields strengthened by a factor of 10 engines burned brighter. Weapons that were barely functional became deadly. And through it all, Valkyr's consciousness remained. Different, distributed, but still himself. The hunter-killers opened fire. Plasma bolts that should have destroyed the ship splashed harmlessly against shields. Laura felt the controls respond with impossible precision. Valkyr was flying the ship with her. His knowledge, combined with her skill, they dove and twisted through space in patterns no normal vessel could manage. Amy targeted the weapons systems. With Valkyr calculating firing solutions, every shot hit perfectly. One hunter-killer lost its engines and spun away. The second took damage to its weapons array. The third tried to ram them, but Laura and Valkyr together danced the ship aside at the last instant. Katie laughed with delight. "I can feel him everywhere. He is the ship now, truly part of it." The council vessels fell back, unable to match their speed or agility. Laura set course for the Nexus, and they left the hunters behind. Caleth sat quietly, with tears on her face. Valkyr's voice came through the ship's speakers, warm with affection. "Do not mourn me, old friend. I am still here, just wearing a different skin." She smiled through her tears. "You were always dramatic. Even now you find a way." 4 more days of travel brought them to the edge of known space. The Nexus floated in the darkness between stars. It was massive, a structure of impossible geometry that hurt to look at directly. Shapes that existed in more dimensions than the eye could process. Laura brought them in slowly. The Nexus should be defended. Where are the automated weapons? Helen's scanners showed nothing. Either they are dormant, or they do not see us as a threat. Katie stood and walked to the viewpoint. She pressed her hand against the glass. "It is calling to me, waiting for me. I think it knows I can interface with it." They approached carefully, ready to flee at any moment. But no weapons fired, no defenses activated. As they drew closer, Katie felt the pull growing stronger. Ancient technology, recognizing the genetic markers in her blood, the same spark that built this place millions of years ago. They docked at what appeared to be an entrance. The airlock opened to reveal corridors lit by light that had been burning since before humanity existed. Caleth led the way with weapons ready. Maya kept Katie close. Helen recorded everything. Amy watched their backs. Valkyr guided them through the ship's systems. his voice steady and reassuring. The interior was vast halls that stretched for kilometers, chambers filled with technology beyond understanding, and at the center, a massive sphere of pure, crystalline energy. Katie walked toward it like she was in a trance. Maya called out, but the girl did not stop. Kaleth moved to intercept, but Katie spoke without looking back. "It is okay. This is what I came for. It wants to share its memories." The girl reached out and touched the sphere. Light exploded through her mind. Suddenly, she was not Katie anymore. She was the Nexus recording device for an entire sector of space. She saw the Council's attack on New Haven in perfect detail. Every ship, every order, every weapon signature. She saw the 17 other attacks Kaleth had documented, saw species destroyed before they could rise, saw the Council's careful planning and cold calculations. But she saw something else too, something terrible. The precursors had not disappeared. They had been murdered. The first Council species had discovered precursor technology, learned to use it, then systematically hunted down every precursor they could find, stole their knowledge, claimed it as their own, built the Council's power on genocide and lies. The current Council leadership knew this truth, kept it hidden for millions of years. Katie downloaded everything, exabytes of data flowing into her mind. Video records, audio files, energy signatures, undeniable proof of crimes spanning ages. But the Nexus was failing. The act of sharing its memories was breaking something fundamental. Alarms began to sound. The structure shuddered. Maya ran forward and grabbed Katie, pulling her away from the sphere. The girl collapsed in her arms, her eyes glowing with residual energy. "Got it all," she whispered. "Everything we need. The Council cannot deny this run." Valkyr's voice boomed through their communicators. "The Hunter fleet found us, dozens of ships dropping out of slip space. They ran back to their vessel. The Nexus was tearing itself apart around them. Ancient systems finally giving in to entropy. They made it to the ship, and Laura launched immediately. Behind them, the Nexus imploded. Millions of years of records consumed in a cascade of energy. But Katie had copied it all. The data was safe in her mind and in the ship's computers. Ahead, Council warships formed a blockade. Behind them, the Nexus's death throes sent out waves of radiation. Valkyr calculated a path through the impossible. There, a gap in their formation. "We can make it if we are fast enough." Laura trusted him completely. She pushed the engines past safety limits. The ship screamed through space. Plasma fire lit up the darkness. Shields held barely. They threaded the needle between two massive warships, jumped to slip space before the Council could react. The journey home would take weeks. Katie slept fitfully, her mind processing the weight of what she had learned. Maya held her daughter and wondered what price they would pay for this knowledge. Kaleth sat with her hand on the wall, feeling Valkyr's presence in the ship's systems. They had the truth. Now came the hard part, making the galaxy listen, making them care, making justice real. Helen studied the data Katie had retrieved. Her hands shook as she understood the implications. "This will change everything," Amy nodded. "If we can broadcast it, if we can make people see, the Council will fall and something new will rise. Maybe better, maybe worse, but definitely different." In the cargo hold transformed by Valkyr's essence, the ship hummed with purpose. They were going home. To New Haven, to humanity, to a galaxy that stood on the edge of revolution. The dragon's sacrifice had bought them the truth. Now they had to decide what to do with it. The hardest battles still lay ahead. 3 weeks passed during their return journey, and the galaxy had changed in their absence. Council forces now surrounded Earth and every human colony. The ultimatum was broadcast across all channels. Surrender your leadership for trial within 10 days or face complete destruction. Admiral Martinez had been recalled to Earth and stripped of command for supporting the unauthorized mission. Politicians argued in endless circles about whether to submit or fight. Nicole Grant sent encrypted messages asking when justice would come. New Haven prepared for invasion. Defenses that could not possibly stop a council fleet, but they prepared anyway. The ship carrying the evidence arrived at the edge of human space on the 9th day. One day before the council's deadline ended, Laura brought them in quietly using Velker's stealth capabilities. They docked at a hidden facility far from the main colonies. Claire was waiting despite her official disgrace. She looked older and tired, but her eyes still burned with determination. "Did you get it?" she asked before anyone even left the ship. Katie stepped forward, and the girl's appearance had changed. Her eyes carried knowledge beyond her years. She moved with a grace that was not entirely human anymore. "The Nexus changed her," Helen said quietly. "She carries its memories now." "All of them." Katie spoke, and her voice echoed strangely. "We have proof of everything. The attack on New Haven 17, other genocides, the murder of the precursors, the Council's lies spanning millions of years, all recorded, all verified, all undeniable." Claire felt hope kindle for the first time in weeks. "Can we broadcast it?" Calith stepped forward. "Not through normal channels. The Council controls all communication networks. They will block any transmission we attempt. But Katie has a solution." The girl nodded. "The precursors built a communication network that exists underneath normal space. It connects to every ship, every station, every settlement in the galaxy. The Council uses it, but they do not control it. With Valker's help, I can access it. Broadcast everything to everyone simultaneously. They cannot stop it, cannot censor it, cannot hide from it." Amy understood immediately. A truth bomb delivered to every being in the galaxy at once. "The political fallout will be massive." Helen added a warning. "But it will also make Katie a target. Once the Council knows she can access precursor networks, they will never stop hunting her." Maya pulled her daughter close. "Then we protect her. Whatever it takes." Katie looked at her mother with ancient eyes. "Mom, I have seen what the Council does. I have watched them destroy 17 civilizations, watched them murder the precursors and steal their legacy. I have nightmares about children dying across the galaxy. If I can stop it by taking this risk, then I have to try." Claire made the command decision. "How much power does the broadcast need?" Calith produced the ancient Sylvari power core she had carried for 5 centuries. "This will be enough, but using it will reveal my location to every Sylvari hunter in the galaxy. After 500 years of hiding, they will finally find me." Laura spoke up. "Then we make sure you are not alone when they come." The crew spent 2 days preparing. Katie practiced interfacing with the precursor network under Valkyr's guidance. The dragon's consciousness had grown comfortable in his new form. He joked that being a ship was less drafty than being flesh and scales. Calith trained with human soldiers, learning to fight alongside them. Helen compiled the evidence into a format that could not be misunderstood. Video-audio data streams, all organized to tell a clear story. Amy coordinated with resistance groups on other worlds. Not everyone in the Council's sphere was happy with the status quo. Many had suspected the truth for years. This would give them the proof they needed to act on Earth. The government debated surrender. The Council fleet was massive, thousands of ships. Weapons that could glass entire planets fighting seemed like suicide, but the people remembered New Haven, remembered 300 children murdered for being too gifted. Protests filled the streets demanding resistance. Nicole sent a final message. "The 3 days are long past, but I am still waiting. Bring us justice or I bring them vengeance." The deadline day arrived. Council ships moved into attack positions around Earth. Counselor Thex broadcast from his flagship, "Humanity's time has expired. Surrender now or face annihilation. We will begin with your military installations, then your cities. You have 1 hour." Katie stood in the broadcast chamber, with the Sylvari power core humming beside her. Her hands rested on the interface. Ancient technology responding to her touch, Calith stood ready to activate the core. Maya held her daughter's hand. Valkyr's presence filled the entire facility. His voice was warm. "I am with you, little one. We all are. Show them the truth." Katie took a deep breath. Then she touched the precursor network, and everything changed. Across the galaxy, every screen activated, every communication device suddenly showed the same images on Earth, on council worlds, on trading stations and mining colonies, aboard warships and merchant vessels, in homes and offices and command centers. Everyone saw New Haven, saw the school collapse under orbital fire, saw the medical center explode with children inside, heard Thex's cold voice giving the order. Then they saw more. 17 other worlds, 17 other attacks, species no one had heard of because they had been erased, the pattern unmistakable, deliberate calculated genocide. Then came the oldest secret, the precursors. Not mysterious beings who ascended to higher existence, but people who were hunted, murdered. Their technology stolen. Their legacy claimed by those who killed them. The Council's founding species shown as they truly were, thieves and murderers who built an empire on stolen power. Katie's voice accompanied the images. She spoke simply, clearly. This is the truth they killed to hide. This is why 300 human children died. We were becoming too advanced, too dangerous to their control. They have done this 17 times before. They will do it again unless we stop them. The broadcast lasted 12 minutes. When it ended, the galaxy was silent. Then everything exploded into chaos. On council worlds, the younger species rose up. Fleets turned on their commanders. Governments collapsed. On Earth, people poured into the streets, not in fear, but in furious vindication. The council fleet around Earth began to fracture. Ships from younger species broke formation. Some turned their weapons on Thex's flagship. The counselor tried to broadcast denials, but no one was listening. The evidence was too clear, too complete, too damning. Kalith stood beside the power core as it burned. Her location was now known to every Sylvari in the galaxy. Within hours they came, hunter ships dropping out of slip space, dozens of them, warriors who had spent centuries tracking her, but they arrived to find her standing with human warships, protected by the species she had helped save. The lead hunter's face appeared on the view screen, Arbiter Kalith. "You are charged with treason. Surrender and face justice." Kalith met her accuser's eyes without fear. "I have spent 500 years gathering proof of the Council's crimes. The galaxy has now seen that proof. Tell me, Hunter, what is treason? Serving truth or serving lies?" The hunter hesitated behind him. Other Sylvari ships were broadcasting the evidence to their homeworld. Their people were watching, learning, understanding. The hunter commander's expression changed as he read reports from home. "Our people are asking questions, demanding answers. They want to know if we have been tools of murderers all this time." He looked at Kalith with new eyes. "Did you know? Did you always know what the Council truly was?" Kalith nodded. "I discovered it 5 centuries ago. When I tried to expose them, they condemned me. I have been gathering evidence ever since, waiting for a species brave enough to stand against them." The hunter was silent for a long moment. Then he made a choice that would echo through history. "We came to capture a traitor. Instead, we find a prophet." The Sylvari hunters powered down their weapons. They did not join the humans, not yet. But they did not attack either. They simply withdrew, leaving Kalith alive and free. Across the galaxy, the reckoning continued. Council warships fought each other. Younger species declared independence. The old alliance shattered into 1,000 pieces. Thex tried to flee, but his own crew arrested him. He would face trial, real trial, for crimes against entire civilizations. On New Haven, Nicole Grant watched the broadcasts with tears streaming down her face. Justice finally. Not the easy kind, not the clean kind, but real. The children's memorial would stand forever. But now their deaths meant something. They had sparked a revolution. Katie collapsed after the broadcast. Her mind overwhelmed by the effort, Helen rushed to help, but Valkyr's voice was soothing. She will recover. She is stronger than she knows. The girl woke hours. Later in her mother's arms, did it work? Maya smiled through her own tears. It worked, sweetheart. The whole galaxy saw everything is changing. Months passed. The council officially dissolved. What replaced it was messy and complicated. A new alliance formed based on cooperation instead of hierarchy. Truth instead of comfortable lies. Katie became a symbol of the new era. The child who could touch ancient technology, who had exposed the greatest conspiracy in galactic history. But humanity made sure she remained a child, first, protected, allowed to grow, allowed to heal. Kalith found herself surrounded by other truth-seekers, beings from 100 species who wanted to build something better. She no longer ran, no longer hid. After 500 years, she could finally rest, and Valkyr in his new form, as ship consciousness became a bridge between organic and machine life. His sacrifice had been transformation, not death, a new way of existing. On the anniversary of the attack Maya stood at, New Haven's memorial, Katie placed flowers at the base, the names of 300 children carved in eternal stone. They would never be forgotten. Kalith joined them. Beside the memorial was a new monument to all the species that had fallen before, to the precursors whose legacy was finally acknowledged, to everyone who had died so the council could maintain its lie. Justice had come. Not perfect, not complete, but real. The galaxy would never be the same. Claire, who had been reinstated as Admiral, stood nearby. She spoke quietly to Maya. "Your daughter changed the universe." Maya looked at Katie, who was laughing with other children, playing like she should have been able to, all along. She just told the truth. The rest of us had to decide what to do with it. Kalith added, "The hardest battles are not fought with weapons, they are fought with choices. We chose truth over comfortable lies, justice over easy peace, the future over the past, and that made all the difference." The sun set over New Haven, a colony rebuilt, a species transformed, a galaxy awakening to difficult truths. Katie looked up at the stars. She could still feel the precursor networks humming beneath reality, could sense the vast potential waiting to be discovered. The council had feared what humanity might become. Now the whole galaxy would find out, not through conquest, not through domination, but through cooperation, through sharing, through building something new on foundations of truth. The age of lies was over. The age of possibility had begun. And it all started with 300 children who died too young, but whose deaths meant something, changed something, saved countless others across the stars. Justice had demanded a heavy price, but it was paid, and the galaxy was better for it. Not perfect, never perfect, but better. And that was enough.